A routine traffic stop turned into a federal nightmare for rapper 600 Breezy. And now leaked footage shows he might be facing RICO charges. How did it all spiral so fast? New jail footage of 600 Breezy has social media going crazy. But here's the real question: how did a simple traffic stop put him on the feds' radar? Imagine driving on a regular night, and minutes later, you're in federal custody. That's exactly what happened to 600 Breezy, and the reason will shock you. 600 Breezy thought it was just a routine stop, but when the cops ran his name, everything changed. This is how one traffic stop became a federal case. The leaked video of 600 Breezy in court has fans asking one thing: is this the end of his freedom or the beginning of his biggest fight yet? New jail footage of rapper 600 Breezy has just surfaced, and it's got social media buzzing. Reports suggest the feds are coming at him hard with serious RICO charges, and if true, the situation looks rough. Let's walk through how a traffic stop turned into a federal case. From a routine stop to a federal problem. Picture this: you're driving through Wisconsin, minding your business, when flashing lights hit your rearview. Normally, that might mean a speeding ticket or maybe a warning. But for Antonio Valentino King, better known as 600 Breezy, things played out very differently. When the flashing lights first hit the rearview, it looked like nothing more than a routine stop. No high-speed chase, no dramatic showdown, just another traffic check on an ordinary night. But the moment officers ran 600 Breezy's name, everything flipped. What should have been a simple citation or warning instantly escalated into something far more dangerous. On their screens popped up an active extradition warrant out of Pennsylvania. In that instant, the situation shifted from minor inconvenience to full-scale arrest. The officers no longer saw a driver, they saw a fugitive in transit. Breezy was pulled from the car, searched, and cuffed as procedure demanded. To him, it must have felt surreal. 1 second free, the next under the crushing weight of the federal system. By 7:30 a.m., he was booked, fingerprinted, photographed, and officially placed in custody. No bail. No easy way out. News of his arrest spread like wildfire. Within hours, whispers began swirling on social media. Fans speculated, critics gloated, and insiders tried piecing together what could possibly link him to Pennsylvania. After all, Breezy's troubles were no secret, but a federal-level extradition? That meant something much bigger was in play. The very next morning, August 28, 2025, Breezy stood before a judge for his first court appearance. Cameras weren't supposed to be allowed, but in today's world, nothing stays hidden. A leaked video from that hearing surfaced almost instantly, bouncing from TikTok to Twitter to YouTube in record time. In the clip, Breezy appears calm, even defiant, dressed in county-issued attire, hands folded as the charges were read. The video didn't need commentary, the weight in his expression spoke volumes. This wasn't about another probation slip or state-level beef. The presence of federal agents, the Pennsylvania warrant, and the secrecy around the indictment all pointed to something far heavier. Fans demanded answers. What could be so serious that federal prosecutors were stepping across state lines? Bloggers spun theories. Some claimed it tied back to his past affiliations with the Black Disciples, a Chicago gang with deep roots and federal attention. Others suggested it was related to ongoing investigations connecting hip-hop figures to organized crime. Even mainstream outlets like Complex, XXL, and DJ Academic's platform lit up with coverage. But behind the headlines was the stark reality: Breezy wasn't just fighting for his freedom anymore. He was fighting a system designed to bury people like him. The shockwave online. The leaked video became a lightning rod. On TikTok, users stitched reactions, dissecting every pause and gesture. On Twitter, hashtags like #FreeSix00Breezy and #RICO trended by mid-afternoon. YouTube commentators dropped hour-long breakdowns, connecting dots between Breezy's past interviews, his music lyrics, and now this arrest. What drew people in wasn't just the case itself, it was what it symbolized. Hip-hop has long walked the line between art and indictment, with lyrics and lifestyles often turned into evidence by prosecutors. For fans, seeing Breezy in court felt like déjà vu of other high-profile RICO cases. They remembered Young Thug's YSL indictment, Casanova's federal plea, and even Tekashi 6ix9ine explosive cooperation deal. Breezy's situation seemed like the next chapter in that same grim book. Why Pennsylvania? The biggest question of all was, why Pennsylvania? Breezy wasn't from there, and his public history tied him more to Chicago, Iowa, and Atlanta. Yet federal warrants don't appear without cause. Rumors suggested that Pennsylvania authorities were sitting on sealed indictments tied to gang activity and interstate crimes. If true, it meant Breezy wasn't just being targeted for who he was, but for the network around him. That's how RICO works, by pulling threads from different states until a larger picture of organized crime appears. A single arrest in Iowa, a parole violation in Chicago, an altercation caught on camera in Atlanta, all of it could be pieced together by federal attorneys to tell a story of conspiracy. The human cost. For Breezy, the immediate impact was brutal. He was cut off from his kids, his career, and his freedom all at once. In interviews before this arrest, he often spoke about how important it was to stay connected with his children during previous lockups. This time, the stakes were higher. With no bail, even simple calls could be restricted and visits limited. His music career was also in jeopardy. The industry moves fast, and any pause longer than a year can derail momentum. By the time this case played out, years could pass, and the spotlight might shift permanently away from him. For an artist who had fought to build a name, that reality cut deep. A case bigger than one man. The arrest wasn't just about Breezy, it was about what his case represented. For hip-hop, it was another reminder of how the federal government has learned to use culture as evidence. Lyrics become confessions. Social media posts become proof. Street credibility becomes prosecutorial leverage. For fans, the leaked court video was more than a trending clip, it was a symbol. It showed how thin the line really is between stardom and a cell, between being celebrated for authenticity and punished for it. By the end of that week, one thing was clear: 600 Breezy wasn't just in trouble. He was standing at the center of a battle that went far beyond him, a battle over how much of hip-hop culture the justice system could criminalize. And as the court process moved forward, with trial dates looming and rumors swirling, fans everywhere were left asking the same question: is this the end of 600 Breezy's freedom, or the beginning of his biggest fight yet? Breezy's calm reaction. During the hearing, the judge offered him a continuance, basically extra time to prepare. Breezy brushed it off. His response? "I've been in this situation before." That short answer said it all. This wasn't his first time dealing with the system. In fact, he openly talked about his past bids, describing prison in a way most people wouldn't expect. Life behind bars, Breezy style. Instead of painting prison as misery, Breezy described it almost like a strange version of comfort. He spoke about watching cable TV, eating real food like Tyson chicken, pizzas, cakes, even steak, talking on the phone all day, including with his kids, staying out late on the honor level, meaning fewer restrictions. He even explained the money system, $75 added twice a week to a debit card, letting him spend $150 weekly inside. With that, he could buy food and extras most inmates never see. For Breezy, prison didn't break him. If anything, it showed the kind of respect, influence, and support he had around him. A shorter sentence raises eyebrows. Breezy once faced a 10-year sentence, but only served 21 months. To many, that kind of outcome suggests top-notch lawyers or cooperation. Either way, it raised questions. But his 2025 arrest is different. This isn't about drugs, probation slips, or smaller charges. This time, the feds are allegedly framing his entire lifestyle as organized crime. A pattern in hip-hop. What's happening to Breezy isn't new. We've seen prosecutors use RICO laws against rappers before: Bobby Shmurda, Young Thug, and others. The same street credibility that makes these artists real to fans can also be twisted into courtroom evidence. For 600 Breezy, that's the real danger. His whole career has been built on being authentic, never hiding his ties, never watering down his past. But prosecutors may now use that same loyalty to argue he's part of a larger criminal enterprise. The bigger picture. What makes this even tougher is timing. Recently, Breezy had been talking about growth, how he was moving past some of the struggles that shaped him. He admitted he once had millions of views, but was still broke in Chicago, trapped in street politics and bad management. His words painted a picture of someone shaped by his environment, loyal to his block, loyal to his homies, loyal to his name. But in federal court, that same loyalty could become the very evidence used against him. Backhand index pointing out the story of 600 Breezy is now bigger than one arrest. It's a reflection of how the system increasingly targets rappers who refuse to separate their art from their reality. And for Breezy, this might be the hardest fight of his career, one that could decide not just his freedom, but his legacy. For a while, 600 Breezy had been reflecting on missed opportunities. In his own words, "I don't got nothing else to prove." Let me really do the music, cause I got it. Anybody else with this opportunity would have been doing way more. But when news of his arrest hit the internet, the response wasn't all supportive. Rival rapper Lil Z Osama mocked him online, reposting Breezy's court clip with captions like, "Brio, the streets ain't for you." He even hinted that Breezy might flip on co-defendants. That type of public taunting made it clear this wasn't just another rapper catching a routine case. Something bigger was brewing. The weight of a sealed warrant. The key detail? Pennsylvania had an unsealed warrant connected to him. Add in speculation about RICO charges, and suddenly the picture looked far more serious than probation slips or minor violations. Sitting in a Wisconsin cell, waiting for transfer, Breezy wasn't just facing jail time. He was staring at charges that could reshape the rest of his life. Blood, beef, and the Black Disciples. To understand why the feds are interested, you have to understand Breezy's roots. His ties to the Black Disciples, BDs, aren't some fake industry gimmick. They run deep, generational, cultural, and tied to the blocks that raised him. The Black Disciples, founded in Chicago in the 1960s under David Barksdale, are one of the most structured and influential gangs in America. They're part of the folk nation, with hierarchy, rules, and operations stretching across multiple states. So when Breezy says 600, he's not just repping a street. He's signaling allegiance to a massive, decades-old organization. And the feds have been systematically coming after BDs through RICO prosecutions, laws designed to treat entire groups as criminal enterprises. That's the danger for Breezy. Every time he claimed BD loyalty in an interview or repped it online, prosecutors could argue it was proof of his role in a criminal conspiracy. A pattern of federal crackdowns. This isn't new. In July 2020, federal agents arrested alleged BD leader Darnell, Murder, McMiller, and 22 others in Chicago's Englewood neighborhood. They framed the BD as a criminal network running drugs and guns. For prosecutors, it wasn't about individual crimes, it was about painting the entire structure as organized crime. And once that case was laid down, anyone with visible BD ties, like Breezy, became vulnerable. The Tekashi 6ix9ine beef, turning point. But the feud that may have hurt Breezy the most was with Tekashi 6ix9ine. 6ix9ine, known for trolling, went after fallen Chicago rapper King Von and disrespected Lil Durk, all while flaunting his status as a federal informant. For Breezy, built on respect for the dead and loyalty to his homies, that crossed every line. On February 20th, 2021, Breezy went live on Instagram and let his anger fly. Thousands watched as he threatened 6ix9ine. "When I see you, I'm going to jail respectfully. You gotta move with security, cause you a expletive." It was raw, emotional, and dangerous, because law enforcement was watching too. What Breezy thought was standing on principle became documented evidence of threats, streamed for the world to see. Later, he tried to walk it back, saying, "All I said was if I punch him, I'd still go to jail. I never said I'd kill him." But the damage was done. Legal fallout. Not long after, Breezy claimed 6ix9ine reported the threats to police. By March 2021, a warrant was issued against him. And on December 3, 2021, Breezy was arrested in Iowa for probation violations tied to those threats and his social media posts with guns. The 6ix9ine beef showed exactly how dangerous Breezy's code of loyalty could be. His instinct to defend respect and reputation kept him real to the streets, but also handed prosecutors ammunition to use in court. Where it leaves him now. By 2025, with federal RICO speculation circling, Breezy's situation looks more dangerous than ever. His BD ties, his online presence, and his high-profile beefs all play into a larger federal strategy, using rappers' own words, images, and affiliations to build conspiracy cases. For 600 Breezy, authenticity has always been his brand. But now, that same authenticity might be what federal prosecutors use to take him down. Even though 600 Breezy knew exactly what Tekashi 6ix9ine was doing, he couldn't just laugh it off. He recognized the game. 6ix9ine's entire brand was built on trolling, stirring up chaos online, and baiting rappers into reacting. But for Breezy, this wasn't just about entertainment. In his world, ignoring disrespect wasn't an option. As Breezy put it, if someone played with his name and nothing happened, his credibility in the streets would collapse. To him, street principles weren't something you could turn on and off, they defined his identity. If he let someone like 6ix9ine mock him publicly without response, it would send the message that anyone could violate him without consequence. And in the culture he came from, that kind of weakness could invite real problems. So Breezy made his stance clear. He wasn't threatening to shoot 6ix9ine or plan some elaborate retaliation. Instead, he said flat out that if he ever caught him, he'd put hands on him, take the assault charge if necessary. In his mind, that was the honorable way to respond, not with bullets, but with a beating that would prove he wasn't one to play with. But those words had weight, especially coming from someone already on parole. Breezy admitted later that his probation officer was notified after his online comments spread. Whether the tip came from someone in 6ix9ine's camp or just from authorities monitoring social media, it didn't matter. The result was the same. Suddenly, Breezy found himself accused of making violent threats across the internet. What made the situation even messier was Breezy's own suspicion that someone had deliberately fed the information to the system. He felt like somebody connected to 6ix9ine had looked up who his PO was and made a call. Whether that's true or not, the case was already out of his hands. Once the internet clipped and spread his words, law enforcement had all they needed to drag him back into court. It's no longer about counting down the days. It's about surviving the years. The impact wouldn't stop with him either. Breezy has always talked about how important staying in touch with his kids was during lockup. He used to brag about calling them whenever he wanted. But a long federal bid? That would mean missing years of their lives, school, birthdays, milestones he can't get back. Those bonds could suffer permanent damage. Then there's the music. Breezy once said, "I don't got nothing else to prove. Let me really do the music, 'cause I got it." Anybody else with this opportunity would have been doing way more. But if he gets locked for a RICO stretch, all that momentum disappears. The music industry doesn't wait. Artists who vanish for years rarely come back to the same spotlight. Financially, it could be devastating too. Federal prosecutors don't just take freedom, they take assets. Cars, houses, jewelry, even royalties from music can all be seized if they argue it was tied to criminal proceeds. Even if Breezy beats the case years later, he could walk out broke, starting from zero. And make no mistake, fighting a RICO case is a marathon. These trials drag on for years, with multiple defendants, mountains of evidence, and endless pretrial hearings. Just look at Young Thug's YSL trial. It became one of the longest in Georgia history. If Breezy doesn't take a plea, he could sit in county for years before even reaching trial. But the hardest part might be the pressure to cooperate. That's exactly how RICO is designed: turn lower-level players against leaders by dangling reduced sentences. For someone like Breezy, whose reputation is built on loyalty and never snitching, that would be the ultimate test. Critics are already whispering about whether he'll fold. And when you're staring down life with no parole, those principles can start to feel like luxuries. Prison for high-profile gang members facing RICO isn't built for comfort, it's built to break you. Solitary confinement, limited visits, heavy surveillance, and the weight of knowing you might never go home. Breezy already got a taste of that when one of his Vlad TV interviews landed him in the hole. Now imagine that pressure multiplied under federal watch. No matter how this plays out, Breezy's life is forever changed. If he beats the case, he walks back into a world where cops and rivals will be watching his every move. If he loses, he could spend the rest of his life in a federal cell under conditions far harsher than anything he's ever known. This isn't just another rapper in trouble. It's a warning. The same authenticity that makes artists like Breezy real to their fans is the same evidence prosecutors use to crush them. The government has figured out how to flip street credibility into courtroom ammunition. For 600 Breezy, the kid from Chicago who turned his pain into music, the ultimate tragedy may be that the streets that made him could also be the thing that finally takes his freedom. The game has changed. And the stakes? They've never been higher.